Infinity Ward devs explained in an interview recently why they created Santa Center Border Crossing map. Does anyone else find it hilarious that literally the map is so bad that people had to ask them why they even created it? That shit is funny to me. Like, a map was so bad they asked them why they even thought that it was a good idea to create it. Turns out that it's actually a part of their philosophy to create bad maps on purpose. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, but also really genius. Now also built a system around knowing that they're going to make bad maps and still profiting, because that's just what we do. We make, quote, experimental maps. That's what they call it. Experimentals. You mean dog shit. They're all dog shit. I'm not even like a pro player or whatever the way that they view this stuff. They view balanced maps as a sweaty or like somehow a negative thing. I don't understand. How is it a negative thing to go and create a map that makes sense and is fair to both teams? I don't understand that shit. How is that a bad thing? I would love to have that fucking explained, how that's a bad thing. What you're saying is you would like to create a map that doesn't have like a consistent flow to it, so players are able to have more random engagement and play in a less controlled environment. I wish I could actively do my job wrong and tell everybody that it was just all part of the plan. So you can create a good map and do your job, or you can create a shit map and just call it experimental and you're still doing your job. What do they consider a failure then? I noticed one thing in this. Side strafing on this game is completely silent. One thing I didn't notice on this game, the third person animations for characters are not very good on this game. I didn't realize it, but I swear sometimes when I'm getting shot, like the character's not even looking right at me. It's always slightly off. Like I'll see a dude start peeking and I'm getting hit with bullets. I'm on like 7 ping or some shit over here. I start getting hit with bullets sometimes before they even get around the corner, or like the tip of their gun will be around the corner, but like the rest of their character isn't. So like, yeah, it's weird. Yeah, so apparently there's this weird thing that goes on with Call of Duty on PC where the more frames that you have, at least on these older games, the more frames you have, the higher and further you can jump. So like if I have over like 300 FPS or something like that, I can jump extra high. If I have 200 something FPS, I can jump a little bit further. Anything below that, I guess, is completely normal. So me running around with, you know, 300 plus FPS running around on here, of course my character was gonna jump super high. I didn't even know that was a thing. I remember it was a thing back on COD 4 on like old school mode, but I had no idea. There's ones where, hey, it would be really cool to fight over a border crossing, and I know that maps are not super popular in certain groups, but we like to keep it fun. It's really neat to move through those cars channeling Sicario, so we try to keep it fun and switch it up, but there's a balance. Okay, so the idea is that they don't want us to think that they're making bad maps. They purposefully make maps that go outside of the typical design. But what map ever has been a success when they do that? I don't understand. There has been no unique or experimental map that has been asked to be brought back. I don't understand. There's nothing. One thing that's really nice is not having the scope glint. I understand why they have the scope glint, but I'm just saying it's really nice when you don't have it. It's not like I sit around ADSing a lot. Like, it's mostly for those small little moments where like I have to challenge a corner like very slightly because I know that they're holding that angle. But the thing is, like, the glint and the glow ends up going around the corner before my weapon is even around the corner. I'm not used to throwing knives anymore. I used to use these all the time. I gave up on them because every lobby wasn't fun enough for me to go and use them anymore. Once you try to do the camo grind, your lobbies are like permanently sweaty. It's so weird too, because on top of the fact that they don't want us to like waste a lot of their resources that they go and make, then they go and waste their resources on, quote, experimental maps. Like, they know it's a waste too. Like, they do, but it doesn't really matter to them. I haven't been in lobbies with like the opportunity to actually stack, I swear. One of the greatest feelings on this game is hitting multi. You guys see what I'm saying about the color palette though, right? It's green. I don't know how to explain it. Even on Vanguard, they just had like a lot of weird colors. Like, I remember the one map that has like the storm or whatever on it, like everything was green. I straight up don't even know the names of the maps. That's how much shipment I play. The one map that was in the beta with like the tropical storm, that whole map was like green for whatever reason. It matters so much the way that the other characters look in game too, because I operate based on whether or not they look like they're more ready or less ready. Like, anyone that knows, man. I wonder if they'll ever get to the point to where they start putting shotgun secondaries in the game again. Like shotgun secondaries that could straight up be primaries, I mean, like the Spaz 12 from MW2, for example. You straight up spawn, put your secondary primary on, and you just pop the fuck off. And the flinch is kind of crazy on this game. I remember I ran a little bit of focus for a while, and I love the weapon proficiencies and how effective they actually were as well. I think I mostly used like Frenzy and shit. Francis Ngannou signs with the PFL. PFL deal has been agreed verbally for 2 months. Says that PFL Africa is a thing that will get him most pumped up, and the PFL's values align with him in terms of building the sport in this region. May have a tune-up fight in boxing. Ngannou wanted his opponent's purse to be a minimum of at least $2 million. So he wants to make sure that his opponents get paid. Ngannou did not want to face an opponent that was not paid what they deserve. He wants to see fighters be rewarded. He wants the best possible opponent. It says that he would be still down to fight John Jones if it could get worked out. Doubt that at this point. I'm proud of Francis, man. Fuck yeah. Some people are like, oh, who's he gonna fight now? He's in the PFL. There's nobody there. Blah, blah. It's like, dude, he can do whatever he wants. I don't give a shit. I would watch Francis fight a fucking horse. I don't give a shit. It always feels so weird going from this game to like a more recent Call of Duty as well, because like so many of these games felt so similar for so long. Like that big change was just so odd. Kind of wish his game had the center dot on the screen. The same center dot that you can enable or disable. I forgot how stupid and shitty the hit detection was on these games, though. There are times where you can straight up shoot them in the chest and they don't die. Other times you shoot them in the foot and they live. It's much more consistent on the newer games. That's for sure. Dude, so many people are saying shit like, Francis fumbled the bag. You say so. It's crazy how they also want to like sit here and concentrate on the fact that like it's about pay or something like that specifically for him. This whole thing sets a new precedent. MMA in general. It's a massive step forward for all of the fighters and in their negotiations. He's also going to end up being on the board, controlling more things than any fighter has ever done before. So this, although is not exactly everything that fighters deserve, it could end up having a cascading effect. And still to this day, corporations and all these big places all have the most control and power, especially during a lot of negotiations. You either take it or fuck off is the way that it goes. A lot of people are like, well, you signed the contract. It's like, yeah, but the contract is still shit. It's the best contract that you can get, but that doesn't mean that it's still a good contract. And then they resort to like, well, you can't get it anywhere else, blah, blah, blah. That's just showing like an entire structural issue in general. Fighters are mistreated. And it's not just in fight, it goes into a whole other category of things, but I'm happy for Francis. I would love to watch him literally crush anybody in the PFL. I don't care. I'll watch a boxing match, even if I know that he won't win. I'll watch virtually anything that he does, win or lose. I was seeing people say stuff like ranked won't save Warzone, blah, 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 all this other. Although they're definitely right, the ranked itself is still pretty great. It just is. Now, obviously, it's got its own issues and people are disconnecting and people are using like some glitches and bugs and other things like that, but that's like a game issue. The system itself is actually better than anything that they've ever made before. Modern Warfare 2 / Warzone 2, this whole ranked system is something that needs to be in every game going forward, in my opinion. It's huge. It is huge for the game. This was something I had asked for such a long time. I'm not going to sit there and go back on it now. Leave this ranked mode in there, regardless of my opinion on skill-based matchmaking and stuff like that. I know that some of the lobbies are weird, and I was saying it was going to be a thing with BR where you're doing these ranked things, you're going to have a lot of these higher rated players wait a really long time unless you spread the search engine out. And here we are, we got top 250 players running into silver players and shit from time to time because it's 150 players on the map. It's not the same as 6v6. 6v6 you can be a lot more, you know, cohesive and together. And I know that there are other BR games that are more strict about it, but again, they worry about how it will look. They don't want their high tier players to be on stream with whatever amount of 1,000 viewers just sitting there in queue. League of Legends players did it all the time, but you know, Call of Duty, it's all engagement based. Even at the cost and expense of the player, just the game's integrity. Am I not recording? At that point in the video, I had realized that I wasn't actually recording any gameplay stuff, so I'm sorry. I had to reuse footage, but Modern Warzone, if you could do one thing to improve the ranked play system in Warzone, what would it be? I genuinely wish that there was ranked solos. Not because I necessarily want to play them, but I want to watch them. Because spectating like squad stuff and just watching squad shit in general is kind of like, there's a lot going on, and there's like a whole lot of talking and a whole lot of like, I don't like it. I don't like it personally. I want to see ranked solo. One of the main things that a lot of people are saying is like, oh, I don't want to lose SR for getting dev errors and all this other shit. And while I absolutely agree that it sucks to lose SR from DCing, I think it should be less about the system and more about the game's ability to stay stable. Because at the end of the day, if you guys added some sort of thing that, for example, if someone disconnects from a game and they don't lose any SR, you do realize like how bad that will be, right? It would be nice to think that the game would be able to detect a dev error as opposed to, say, somebody just pulling their Ethernet cable out. But here's another thing, if you make it so it only reacts and doesn't give you SR loss when a dev error is proc, somebody is just going to go out of their way to just find a way to dev error themselves every time they're about to lose or they die. It results in a lot more manipulation. The counter to that in a way is that you're already spending SR to get into the lobby, so potentially losing it through a DC, no matter what kind of DC, still feels like shit. You are in a sense still trying to avoid that sense of oh, like a glorified pub match just with stacking SR. You need it to be punishing, but it needs to be reasonably punishing, not like unfair punishing, where you guys just introducing a new patch that just so happens to have everybody DCing more often or dev erroring more often. The more that that occurs, the less people are going to want to even queue at all. Also, there's this whole other thing that happens where, you know, if the queue times were to get longer, there's a whole thing where people would start smurfing. But I mean, we're gonna act like that really matters. I mean, smurfing is not that big of a deal, in my opinion. I don't think it's like insanely widespread in the sense of, you also have to understand that this game year over year is going to just turn into another game. So even if somebody is just manipulating throughout the entire year, they're gonna have to learn how to re-manipulate the next one. So ultimately, it's not the same like long drawn out plan as a game like League of Legends that is well established in that sense. Yeah, add ranked solos, please, so I can spectate it again. You know, I've been getting an urge to go back and spectate some Warzone and see if it changed at all. I genuinely haven't played or made a Warzone game in months. I have less than 100 kills in Warzone. Yeah, the last spectating video I did is coming up on 5 months ago. I might have to drop back into Warzone and check it out. Oh, dude, with the inactivity on the account, with the low KD, like no score per minute whatsoever, I am going to get into lobbies that are just complete Martian. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go visit Mars.